Good day everyone. In this video we're going to discuss about biotechnology. So you will going to understand how food and drinks are being made. Biotechnology is use of biological process or organism to create useful products such as food and drinks. So the food and drinks that we're going to discuss in this video is cheese, yogurt, bread, and beer and wine. So first we need to discuss about how cheese are made of. So there are many types of cheese and it is made from milk. And did you know that bacteria also used in cheese making? So some types of cheese also need molds to create this unique taste of cheeses. So we have here all the types of cheese in different countries. So if you like cheese, you probably eaten all of this. The most common one is this Parmesan cheese and cheddar. How do we make cheese? First, cheese are made from animals' milk, including cows, goats, and sheep. Using different species of bacteria and molds can create different types and flavors. And this bacteria ferments lactose. Fermentation is a chemical breakdown of bacteria, yeast, or some types of microorganism. It converts lactose to lactic acid. So lactose is a type of sugar and bacteria eats this lactose, converting it to lactic acid, which gives the taste of the cheese pleasant taste or the tangy taste. So that's why some people actually love this. So procedure on making cheese. First, milk is placed into a large container. Then bacteria are added to convert the lactose to lactic acid. So this is where the part that fermentation happens. Then next, rennet is added. Rennet is very important for cheese making because it contains enzymes that curdles the milk. Then the fourth one is milk separates into curds. There would be two types of materials inside the container, which is the milk solids, which are fat and protein, and the whey. Whey, it's actually the watery part of the milk. So you will actually see it on the video that we're going to show. The next step is, and the curds are pressed to make solid cheese. Then finally, the cheese is left to mature to improve its flavor and consistency. So here is the video on how to make the cheese.
Today on Ever Wonder, we're at Calkins Creamery, a dairy farm that makes cheese. Emily and Maggie are going to show us their process. There are many different types of cheese, but the first step is always milking the cow. The milk is stirred in the pasteurizer, which heats up and kills off bacteria that naturally lives in the milk. Starter cultures and rennet are added, which helps to make the milk curd and stick together. After stirring and resting, the cheese becomes wobbly, which means it's almost ready. After it becomes more solid, they divide the cheese up into small squares. The extra liquid from the cheese, called whey, is drained out, and the cheese is stirred again. After it's completely drained, it's divided and then hooped. which is when they put it in different containers. It looks like popcorn. This cheese is wrapped up in a cheesecloth and then pressed, which gets rid of the excess moisture and forms the shape of the cheese. This other cheese is being poured into molding containers and is then flipped several times. Cheese can also be dipped in wax, left to grow mold around it, or soaked in a brine for more flavor. Next time you're eating a delicious cheese curd, be sure to thank your local cow. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so that's how cheese are made of. So next is the procedure on making yogurt. Milk is placed onto a large container. Then milk is pasteurized. So pasteurization is actually a process of heating milk to kill harmful bacteria. So when you took out milk on cow, goat, there will be bacteria. That's why pasteurization is very important in producing milk. So good bacteria are added to the milk. So I forgot to write added here to the milk. Next is the milk is kept warm for several hours. Then the bacteria multiply and ferment lactose into lactic acid. So same procedure as the cheese, it will ferment the lactose, converting it to lactic acid. Then the lactic acid curdles the milk into a yogurt. So here's another video on how to create yogurt.
Yogurt starts out as plain old milk. Every day, 15,000 litres of milk is delivered to us from local farmers and loaded into these huge refrigerated storage tanks. When we're ready to turn all this milk into yogurt, the next step is a very critical one, and it's called pasteurisation. First, we transfer the milk into smaller tanks. We do this to make the next step a bit easier. We heat up each tank up to 92.5 degrees. It takes a few hours to heat so much liquid, but by doing this, we kill any nasty germs or bacteria that might be present. Then we cool it down to about 40 degrees, and then we add our friendly bacteria. That's right. Even though we've just removed the bacteria from the milk, it's time to add some different bacteria back in. We call these cultures, and the species of bacteria that make the yogurt have some pretty complicated names. But how does friendly bacteria make yogurt? Well, the cultures get straight to work chomping down on all the sugars, called lactose, which is present in the milk. In doing so, they release gas and convert the lactose into lactic acid. This process is called fermentation. This lactic acid is what gives the yogurt its characteristically tangy taste. It takes about 10 hours for the bacteria to multiply and eat all the sugar. This turns milk into yogurt, but there's one more step before we're done. After we pour about 30 litres of yogurt into these large cloths, we let them sit and strain them. The excess liquid in the yogurt then slowly flows out, leaving behind extra thick, extra tangy yogurt. After a couple of days, we're left with half the amount of yogurt. Then we actually add back in a little bit of the unstrained yogurt until the finished product is at just the right consistency.
Okay, so that's how yogurt is made of. And you might wonder why we have a live yogurt or we add bacteria even though we already pasteurized the yogurt by killing the bacteria and heating it up into a particular temperature. You might ask yourself, why do we need to add bacteria to it? Some yogurt are pasteurized after production, and some unpasteurized yogurt are known as live or probiotic yogurt. So as you have seen in the video, there are two types of bacteria that's being added on yogurt, which is the Lactobacillus bulgaricus, and the second one is Streptococcus thermophilus. Live or probiotic yogurt help digestion. So when you feel like you have a stomach ache and you don't feel good with your stomach, it's actually good to eat yogurt. It helps the digestion. When I have a some problems with my stomach or maybe a diarrhea, I actually eat yogurt, and a couple of hours after eating it, it will lessen my discomfort. And antibiotic kills good and bad bacteria. So if you are sick, usually the doctor gives you antibiotics. And the one way to put the good bacteria back to your system is by eating the yogurt. So the next video that we're going to show is the live bacteria that is found in a yogurt. And these are actually magnified to a certain level so that you can actually see those live bacteria. So those live bacteria is actually like worms, small worms, as you can see. These are the bacteria. This will help you digest or give you comfort in your stomach when you have some stomach ache. What is yeast? Yeast is a microorganism used to produce bread and many alcoholic drinks. Yeast respires without needing oxygen. It is actually a type of fermentation called anaerobic respiration. And the process is the glucose, which is another name for sugar. Before we have known about lactose, another type of sugar. By this time, we are actually using the glucose. So glucose is fermented by the yeast to produce ethanol and carbon dioxide and plus energy. This energy or ATP is adenosine triphosphate. This is a metabolic process, and this is a chemical symbol for this process. So this is our glucose, this is our ethanol, and this is our carbon dioxide. Enzyme helps speed up the fermentation. So how do we make bread? First, we actually gather our ingredients, which are flour, water, and yeast, and they're actually mixed to make a dough. Next, dough is left in a warm place to rise, so where the fermentation starts. So from glucose, then the yeast eats this glucose, converting it to alcohol and carbon dioxide, plus the adenosine triphosphate. Then carbon dioxide is trapped as bubbles inside the dough, making it to rise. Then it's baked to evaporate alcohol. Bubbles of gas expands further. So that's why if you eat bread, you won't actually taste the alcohol or you won't get drunk. So that's the reason why if you baked it, the alcohol evaporates with it. Here's a video on how to make bread. When yeast ferment grape sugar. Okay, and then beer or lager is made when yeast ferment sugar in malted berry. Okay, so this is beer with the malt, started with the malt. You crushed it and mix it with yeast into a particular solution. So procedure in making wine or beer. So as I have discussed earlier, it's the same process. So plant sugar is added to a large container. Next is yeast is added to ferment the sugar into alcohol. Container is sealed to keep out oxygen and other microorganisms. Mixture is left until the sugar has fermented into alcohol. The next is sediment is removed from the liquid, often by filtration. The next step is liquid is bottled or put into a barrels ready for consumption.
Bolney is 40 acres, which is 16.5 hectares. We grow red wine grapes and white wine grapes, and we actually make sparkling wine as well here, but we actually specialise in red wine, so a lot of this field behind us here is planted to Pinot Noir. Pick the grapes, we take them to the winery, we load them onto a sorting table where we actually just look at the grapes. If there's anything we don't want to go through into the press, we take them out. And then if it's white wine grapes or grapes of rosé, they go straight through into the press and then we press them in the press. With red wine, it's a little bit different. With red wine, we actually crush and destem. We take the grape stems off of the grapes. We don't really want them in with the wine as it's fermenting. We get the colour, get the flavours and aromas, and then once that's done, you pump off all of the juice that you've created, and then you take the grapes that are left and just put them very gently in the press just to get the last bit of juice out of them. English sparkling wine, this has become quite well recognised now. A lot of people have heard of it, and it's got a brand name abroad as well. But there is more and more still being made, and there's definitely interest, and we sell out of every bottle of still we make every year.
So that ends our discussion about biotechnology. I hope you enjoyed our video and our discussion. So if you have any comments, feel free to ask questions down the comment below, and I hope you had a wonderful day. Thank you.